September 11th, 2001. A beautiful Tuesday morning in New York City. Clear blue skies. People heading to work, grabbing their morning coffee, starting what they thought would be just another normal day. But within hours, the world would witness one of the most devastating attacks in modern history. I'm your host at Vault Timelines, and today we're diving deep into the complete story of 9/11. What happened that day, who was responsible, and how it changed everything about the world we live in. Even now, more than 2 decades later, the effects of this day touch your life in ways you probably don't even realize. 7:59 a.m. September 11th, 2001. American Airlines Flight 11 takes off from Boston's Logan International Airport. It's a Boeing 767 headed to Los Angeles with 92 people on board. Among those passengers are 5 men who would soon become hijackers. Just 15 minutes into the flight, they make their move. Armed with box cutters, they storm the cockpit and overpower the pilots. One of them, Mohammed Atta, a 33-year-old Egyptian trained as a pilot, takes control of the aircraft. The plane suddenly changes course. Instead of heading west to Los Angeles, it turns south toward New York City. At 8:14 a.m., Flight 11 stops responding to air traffic control. The transponder is turned off. The plane has vanished from radar. Mohammed Atta is now flying directly toward Lower Manhattan, toward 2 massive towers that define the New York skyline, the World Trade Center. These weren't just any buildings. The Twin Towers were icons of American prosperity. When completed in the 1970s, they were the tallest buildings in the world. Each tower stood 110 stories tall. Around 50,000 people worked there on a normal workday. At 8:46 a.m., the unthinkable happens. Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floors, traveling at 465 miles per hour. The explosion creates a massive fireball visible for miles. People on the ground feel the impact like an earthquake. News cameras immediately turn toward the towers. People on the streets stand frozen, staring up in disbelief. What just happened? At this moment, President George W. Bush is in Florida, visiting an elementary school. His chief of staff tells him about the crash. Bush thinks it must be a terrible accident. Perhaps the pilot had a heart attack. He enters a classroom and begins reading with second graders. The book is called The Pet Goat. Back in New York, the world is watching the North Tower burn. News helicopters circle the building. Reporters broadcast live. Was it an accident? A small plane that lost control? Then, at 9:03 a.m., the answer becomes horrifyingly clear. On live television, watched by millions around the world, United Airlines Flight 175 appears, flying low over Manhattan. The plane banks sharply and crashes into the South Tower between the 77th and 85th floors. This is no accident. America is under attack. In that Florida classroom, Andrew Card walks over to President Bush, leans down, and whispers, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack." The moment is captured on camera. Bush's face changes as he processes the words. But he doesn't leave immediately. He stays for another 7 minutes, continuing the reading exercise. This decision would later become one of the most criticized moments of his presidency. While the world focuses on the burning towers, 2 more hijackings are underway. American Airlines Flight 77 had taken off from Washington Dulles at 8:20 a.m., heading to Los Angeles with 64 people on board. 5 hijackers overpower the crew and take control. United Airlines Flight 93 departs Newark at 8:42 a.m., bound for San Francisco with 44 people aboard. 4 hijackers are on this plane. Both planes turn around, heading toward Washington, D.C. at 9:37 a.m. Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon at 530 miles per hour. The Pentagon, headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense and symbol of American military power, is now on fire. 125 people inside the building are killed, along with the 64 on the plane. At 9:42 a.m., the Federal Aviation Administration makes an unprecedented decision. Every single airplane in American airspace must land immediately. More than 4,000 flights are ordered down. The skies over America are cleared. But there's still one hijacked plane in the air, Flight 93. Back in New York, the situation is desperate. Massive fires fueled by thousands of gallons of jet fuel rage in both towers. The heat is so intense that steel beams begin to buckle. Smoke pours from the gaping holes. Inside, thousands of people are trying to escape, running down endless flights of stairs through smoke-filled stairwells. Many above the impact zones are trapped with no way down. Some make an unthinkable choice. Rather than face the flames, dozens of people jump from the towers. These images become some of the most haunting of that day. First responders are racing into the buildings. New York firefighters, police officers, and emergency workers are running up the stairs while everyone else is running down. Then, at 9:59 a.m., just 56 minutes after being hit, the South Tower collapses. The entire 110-story building comes down in 10 seconds. A massive cloud of dust and debris explodes outward, racing through the streets like a tsunami. People run for their lives. The dust cloud is so thick that day turns to night in Lower Manhattan. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapses as well. Both towers are gone, reduced to twisted steel and concrete. The area becomes known as Ground Zero. While this nightmare unfolds, Flight 93 is still in the air, heading toward Washington, but something different is happening on this plane. Passengers have made phone calls to their families. Through these calls, they learn about the attacks in New York and Washington. They realize their plane has been hijacked for the same purpose. They understand they're probably going to die. But they have a choice. They can wait for the inevitable, or they can fight back. Several passengers decide to try to retake the plane. Todd Beamer, a 32-year-old passenger on the phone with an operator, speaks what become his last known words. "Are you ready?" "Okay, let's roll." The passengers charge toward the cockpit. There's a violent struggle. The hijackers realize they're about to lose control. Rather than let the passengers succeed, they crash the plane immediately. At 10:03 a.m., Flight 93 crashes into an empty field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, at over 500 miles per hour. Everyone on board is killed instantly. But because of their bravery, the plane never reaches its target. Investigators believe the hijackers plan to crash into either the White House or the U.S. Capitol. The passengers of Flight 93 were ordinary people who became heroes in their final moments. As the dust settles, the scale of the tragedy becomes clear. 2,977 people are killed in the attacks. At the World Trade Center, 2,753 people. At the Pentagon, 184. On Flight 93, 40 passengers and crew. The dead include people from over 90 countries. Office workers, firefighters, police officers, pilots, flight attendants, passengers. People who went to work that morning and never came home. 343 New York firefighters died that day, running into the buildings while everyone else was running out. In the days after, the nation unites in grief. People line up for hours to donate blood. Volunteers flood to New York. American flags appear everywhere. But there's also anger, fear, and a demand for answers. Who did this, and why? Within hours, investigators identify the 19 hijackers. All are from Middle Eastern countries. 15 from Saudi Arabia, 2 from the UAE, 1 from Egypt, 1 from Lebanon. These men had been living in the United States for months, training at flight schools, but they never learned to take off or land. They only wanted to know how to steer. The evidence points to Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, hiding in Afghanistan. Initially, bin Laden denies involvement. But in 2004, he releases a video admitting to the attacks. He cites American foreign policy in the Middle East, support for Israel, and military bases in Saudi Arabia as his motivations. The operational mastermind is identified as Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was eventually captured in 2003 and remains at Guantanamo Bay today. But the man everyone wants is bin Laden, and he's nowhere to be found. Less than a month after 9/11, President Bush declares a war on terror. He gives the Taliban in Afghanistan an ultimatum: hand over bin Laden or face attack. The Taliban refuses. On October 7, 2001, America invades Afghanistan, beginning its longest war lasting 20 years. Then in March 2003, the U.S. invades Iraq, claiming weapons of mass destruction. These claims are later proven false. These wars cost trillions of dollars. Over 7,000 American service members are killed. Hundreds of thousands of civilians die. It's not until May 2, 2011, nearly 10 years after 9/11, that Osama bin Laden is finally found and killed by Navy SEALs in Pakistan. But the impact of 9/11 goes beyond the wars. It fundamentally changed how we live. Just 6 weeks after the attacks, Congress passes the Patriot Act with barely any debate. It gives the government sweeping surveillance powers. Intelligence agencies can monitor phone calls, emails, and internet activity without a warrant. For years, Americans accept this. They're told it's necessary for security. But in 2013, Edward Snowden exposes the truth. The NSA has been conducting mass surveillance on everyone. Collecting phone records, accessing emails, tracking locations. Not just terrorists, everyone. Before 9/11s, you could arrive at the airport 30 minutes before your flight. Families walked you to the gate. Security was minimal. Now? You arrive hours early. Remove shoes, belts, jackets. No liquids over 3.4 ounces. Full-body scanners. The TSA searches everything. Flying became a hassle, but people accepted it as the price of safety. Hate crimes against Muslims exploded after 9/11s. In 2000, there were 28 reported. In 2001, 481. Sikhs were also targeted because of turbans and beards. The first victim was Balbir Singh Sodhi, a Sikh man killed at his gas station in Arizona just 4 days after 9/11s. Shot by someone who couldn't tell the difference between a Sikh and the terrorists. Here at Volt Timelines, we believe history teaches us important lessons. The lesson of 9/11s is this: extremism breeds extremism. Violence begets violence. Osama said he was taking revenge for American actions. So he killed innocent people. Then America said it was taking revenge for Osama's actions, invading countries and killing more innocents. Then their families wanted revenge, joining terrorist groups. It's an endless cycle. When one terrorist is killed, another is created. Never let fear blind you to reality. Never let any government use terrorism as an excuse to take away your freedoms. The 2,977 people who died on September 11th deserved better than endless war and surveillance in their names. Remember 9/11s. Honor the victims. Learn from history. This has been Vault Timelines. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next timeline.